The chronological Bible reading for February 15th is Leviticus chapters 8 through 10. In chapter 8, we see Aaron and his sons ordained into the ministry. Ordination is a consecration. It's a setting apart. It's saying that this individual is no longer one of the world. They are being called by God and equipped by God to walk in ministry, to do the things God has called them to do. We in the church have made a mockery of this in a sense where human beings choose other human beings and consecrate them or ordain them for the ministry. But it should not be this way. It should be God who is calling people into the ministry and equipping them when they are of the right character in order that they'll be able to serve the least privileged among us. And they'll be able to serve with a humble heart because they have character, because their character is more important than their gifting. A lot of churches and ministries have made the mistake of judging as the world judges rather than looking at the heart as God does. And the result has been a lot of very influential people who are extremely talented when it comes to oratories, and they even look nice much of the time, but they're not equipped with the character to love people the way God does, and instead they lord it over people that they're in a position of authority and power and influence the way pagans would. God set Aaron and his sons apart and gave them a holy calling. And in chapter 10, as we'll discuss in just a moment, the first two men who were chosen were struck dead because they didn't have the character and willingness to run things the way God wanted them done. In chapter 8:31 and following, Moses speaks to Aaron and his sons and tells them, "Do not leave the tent of meeting for the next 7 days, because it takes 7 days for you to be ordained. It takes a complete week." This is another picture of God in his sovereignty, giving us a glimpse that this world must exist for 7 days, when a day is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years are like a day, until we are able to fully enter into service and what that will look like in heaven. This was a season of preparation, but it was also a test of their willingness to make sure that they were going to obey God, because if they couldn't obey God in the simple matter of staying put for a week, they were certainly not qualified to lead or minister to God's people. Moses tells them, "You must remain at the entrance to the tent of meeting day and night for 7 days and keep Yahweh's charge so that you will not die." It may have been difficult for them to imagine staying at the entrance to the tent of meeting for 7 straight days and nights, but to me it is a picture of how hard we must try to enter into God's rest. God wants us to be in community with Him, and sometimes it takes a while for us to put away all of the distractions, all of the busyness, all of the other things that we might be doing, and learn to be still and know that He is God. Chapter 9, verse 1 says, "On the 8th day, Moses summoned Aaron, his sons, and the elders of Israel." The number 8 is a day of new beginnings. The ceremony of sacrificial offerings begin. Aaron sacrifices a sin offering and a burnt offering to make atonement for himself and for the people. They did everything as had been commanded by God through Moses, at which point Moses and Aaron enter the tent of meeting, and when they came out, they blessed all of the people. And when they blessed the people, the glory of Yahweh appeared and enveloped them. Fire came down and consumed the offering, and when all of the people saw it, they shouted and fell on their faces. That word shouted means to sing out, to shout for joy, or to rejoice. When the people saw God move, they were impacted with a holy reverence, and they couldn't help but exclaim out of their joy that they were experiencing. Mankind has a bad habit of trying to recreate circumstances when God moves in a most powerful way. As a matter of fact, nearly every denomination within Protestant Christianity has come about as a result of a powerful move of God and then people trying to recreate the environment in which God moves. Unfortunately, Aaron's two sons, Nadab and Abihu, saw God move, and they decided to try to recreate that, and they violated the command and the oath of their office as priests. And they offered another sacrifice to the most holy God, and it resulted in God striking them dead. The fire that consumed the previous sacrifice, which was offered in obedience to God, this time consumed the men who were trying to get God to do tricks for them, and it cost them their lives. For the people of God to conduct church services where we sing 3 songs, take up an offering, do announcements, have a 25-minute sermon with 3 bullet points and a couple interesting stories, and then cap it off with an altar call in which we ask God to move, touch hearts, and change people, not even thinking about the fact that we're doing this because we saw other people do it first and it worked for them. We are, in a sense, committing the same sins that Nadab and Abihu did when they offered strange fire. The fire was called strange because it was unauthorized. It was foreign. It was not supposed to be there. Judgment is coming upon institutionalized religion in 2025 and beyond. We as God's people need to make sure that we are where He wants us, or else we might get caught up in the coming judgment. This is a very important thing for God's people to understand, so please hear me. Pray and ask God what it is He wants you to do, and make sure you obey that. If you are a Christian, it means you are a Christ follower. It means you listen to His voice and you do what He's calling you to do. Jesus said, "Wide is the path that leads to destruction, but narrow is the path that leads to life, and few find it." And it's so fundamentally important that we understand when Jesus said that, He was speaking to people who were listening to Him. He was speaking to His followers. May we all listen carefully to what it is God is saying. May we follow Him with all of our hearts, and may He find us to be faithful servants so that we can all hear those words someday, "Well done, good and faithful servant." God bless you, my friends. As you seek Him, you will find Him. See you tomorrow.